Now, one of the things is when you go back and you study the ancient world, and one of the reasons why this is really important, this series, is so that you can see that we can go back far. Further we go back, the more we see that so many different civilizations had mythologies. We find so many different civilizations throughout the world, some with remnants, artifacts, what have you, claiming to be much older than ancient Kemet. The thing is this: there is no two ancient civilizations on this planet that we have discovered that we can find as much information about as ancient Greece and ancient Kemet. And you have to think about this, because one, we know we can go back 3000 BCE with ancient Kemet, Narma, 3000 BCE. I mean, that's long. And it seems as if when you get to about 1000 BCE, you start getting in Greek mythology, the Greek culture. You start hearing about these Greek myths. And we can't find any other culture that we can follow so far back and have so much detail. We're talking about with the, Homer, Odyssey, the Iliad, the whole world of Greek mythology and Greek stories, from, the Orphic Theogonies, as I'm going to talk about, Hesiod, his Theogonies. I mean, this stuff is old. We're talking about 1000 to 700 BCE in this time frame. We can't find nothing else from no other culture or civilization on this planet that dates back so far with so much information. Think about that. So when we get into the whole conversation about, conquering, and about civilizations that was conquered, how information was lost and burned, or what have you, this is one of the reasons. But again, you got to pay attention to the fact that for somehow, the Greek and ancient Egyptians, their whole theology, their whole history, a lot of it survived. Now, the ancient Egyptians, because one, they put it in stone, and the stuff was so beautiful and so important that they couldn't dare destroy it all. They took away what they could take away. They hid what they hid, and we have what we have. But we've been able to piece together large parts of what we have today. Now, in Greek mythology, and what you're going to see in this video, and what you're going to understand by the end of it, is how much we are immersed in the same story over and over again. It's going to make a lot more sense later in a second, but it's amazing. And the main point is you have to really figure out, and this is going to show you clear by the end of this video, who exactly is in power and what exactly they are doing and how crazy it is. There's a lot of stuff people are not seeing and not realizing when you pay attention to Greek mythology, when you pay attention to the stories that we have been told, the information that's out there, and you start to put it in context with everything else. And then slowly the picture starts to reveal itself and you start to see what's going on. Now, you have many people talking about Sumer, ancient Mesopotamia, and all these other ancient places that people want to proclaim, is older than ancient Kemet. And a lot of places, not saying that, ancient Egypt is the oldest, the first civilization or what have you, because we know that's not true. But it's a reason. It's a reason why. We can talk about all these other ancient civilizations, but it's a reason why they go back to Kemet. Ancient Kemet is the most researched thing in all of history, in all of recorded history. There is nothing that has been researched more than ancient Egypt. Nothing that has been copied more than ancient Egypt. As I've shown you guys, we owe so much of our system, the things we have from, toys, dolls, board games, all the way up to sports, we find back in ancient Kemet. So there has been no other civilization in the history of mankind that we know of that has been copied more than ancient Kemet, that has been mimicked. I mean, look, Freemasonry. Everything that entails comes from ancient Kemet. So much has been stolen These people that's studying the doctrine of the occult and all these esoteric, books and meanings, this stuff goes back to ancient Kemet. It doesn't come from Sumer and Mesopotamia or, the Mayans, the Olmecs, or what have you. And when you go back and start looking at a lot of these civilizations that people are talking about, the information we can trace back to ancient Kemet, as I have been showing you guys. So it's a reason why they fixated on ancient Kemet. It's a reason why they put that pyramid on the back of the dollar bill. The reason why everything that we see is, we could trace it back there, is because there's something about that civilization. And from my research, to me, it is the last remnants of the civilization of who the ancient Egyptians called the gods, the ones with power. It's the same thing when you get into Greek mythology that they are talking about. So you have this line to where you have this civilization of ancient Egyptians who they say, and the Greeks say, that before these people, somehow in Kemet, before they came, there was this civilization or these gods, these beings that ruled before the dynasties, before Norma, before the people who we know from ancient Kemet that we have been studying over the years, that they talk about before them were the gods. And it's so weird how the Greeks put it, same type of way, that you have this world of the gods before men was created. And it's so many different stories, all with esoteric meanings about how we came about, that you really got to dig into. But again, a lot of people want to talk about these ancient civilizations. It's a reason why, and as you're going to see in this video, when you pay attention, one, it all goes back to ancient Greece. And we know the Greeks stole it from ancient Kemet, so it goes back there. So it's a lot of stuff people are missing and not seeing as it pertains to ancient Greece and ancient Kemet. So now whatever happened to those beings, whatever happened to that generation before the dynasties, has to be responsible for our situation, responsible for the fact that we are no longer in power, and basically must be behind the rise of the European power, because it just fits that all of a sudden you have, this war, and, seemingly the original man, the melanated people of the planet, is somehow, put in this prison, this situation where we are not allowed to progress in any areas as far as, intellectual advancement or any type of advanced civilization. We have been enslaved and oppressed, for a reason. And it just goes back to what I was saying. I mean, think about it. You have the Greeks, you have the Romans talking about the ancient Egyptians, how great and mighty they were, about the Greeks and Romans coming in there to learn and study with the Egyptians. Think about what they was able to do and accomplish. Think about what they could have brought to the people, what they was trying to do. Think about who in their right mind would cause the collapse of such a civilization and a people. So much they did to help, so much information and knowledge that they had. Why would you want to cause the downfall of these people who never raised their hand to no other civilization or group of people? They was fixated on one thing. Knowing who they were, being spiritual people, and figuring out what took place, what happened, how to get it back. They wasn't in a position to where they was trying to go out and conquer the planet, as we see with the Europeans. So why take down that civilization? Everything that we see with the fall of Kemet and the information, the knowledge, just the way it was left, was as if, we can't use it. I mean, you got to look at it that way, because that's exactly what it was. So the only way you would cause the downfall of that civilization is if it does not benefit you. If you can't get out of it what you want out of it, but you don't want nobody else to get something out of it either. And that's exactly what happened. By the same token, you can ask the question, you are now in possession of the greatest civilization that you have ever known. You have it. You conquered it. It's yours. Why not keep it? why not hold on to it? And, basically they kind of sort of did, and they still own it. And, they kind of sort of still use it when you understand that situation. But the reason why the Europeans, of course, couldn't keep it and rule it and be the face of Kemet is, of course, because of the heat. And the fact that other surrounding civilizations knew who the ancient Egyptians was. And just the simple fact of keeping that kingdom and that system going would keep resonating with us Africans. Keep us in the knowledge and understanding that that's us, that's our power, not yours. You just conquered it. So what is it you're trying to hide from us? So it's better that we leave this stuff. Don't tell nobody about it. Don't talk about it. Don't teach the Africans about it. Just, twist it. Make them be unsure of the situation in ancient Egypt, which is what they did. See, they couldn't be there. White men can't be there in that heat, excavating. You heard about the so-called curse of the mummy, what kept happening to those Englishmen when they was down there. They was dying from cancer, strokes, and all kinds of stuff because of the heat. So if you own the Arabs, if you running Islam, that system, you can have the Arabs, go in there, excavate. They can withstand the heat. And since you own that system, since you control Egyptology and these people that's running the country, the artifacts that's found, the information that's found, you can keep under wraps. You can keep the cover up going because you run these people. This is one of the reasons why they let the Arabs in and did not allow us to go back into ancient Egypt to figure out what was there, to uncover it and then have the knowledge, because they knew how important it was. So they secured it for the Arabs and keep it away from us. Everything is pointing there for a reason. It's telling you where to go with the study. Everything falls back to these two groups, the Greeks and the ancient Egyptians, and what was going on. The Greeks taking us into the future. And following anything that they doing is like, what's the point? Well, we need to be staying with the ancient Egyptians and what they was trying to figure out in the past. That's the key, which, we get into. But it's definitely important to understand that fact that they did exactly, what they always do. And when I'm giving you guys the Bible series and talking about in Exodus and Deuteronomy and Leviticus and what have you, in Numbers, the spoils of war, and them basically using that same MO, going into these civilizations, conquering and taking off with the information, what they can use to keep, building their empire. So even when you look it up in the Bible, from Exodus 12:36, and the Lord had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they let them have their requests. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. And again, where in the Bible, where in that story do you see especially in Exodus, what do you see in the story of the Israelites and the Egyptians where the Israelites are basically taking the Egyptian shit? You don't see that. So again, this is another hint of them talking about themselves, the Greeks. The Greeks are the ones who plundered the Egyptians. There's no proof. There's nothing to show that Israelites plundered ancient Kemet. It says the sons of Israel captured the women of Midian and their little ones, and all their cattle and all their flocks and all their goods they plundered. So, it's just giving you the same MO of what the Greeks have been known to do. Conquer civilizations, steal their stuff, keep moving. And the Israelites, as I talk about in the Bible series, being the Greeks. It's going to make a lot of sense as we go on. All this stuff going to come together. Trust me. This is something that people really need to understand and see and make that connection. Because there's a lot of people who still are not sold on the ancient Greeks being the ones behind all of this, and not really getting that understanding that we're talking about the same people here when we're talking about the Romans, when we're talking about the Germans, when we're talking about any other Europeans. They're Europeans. It doesn't matter. They are in this together, whether you believe it or not. Everything else, it's a song and a dance. It's all politics bullshit. All to keep the veil, cover over our eyes about what's really going on and what these beings are really trying to do on this planet. So now what's known by scholars who study antiquity, who study ancient Kemet and ancient Greece or what have you, what's known by these people that is not put out there mainstream is the fact that, of course, Greek mythology, which we have been taught in school, all the information, everything that's out there is in fact stolen Egyptian mythology and plagiarized Egyptian mythology. Basically, the stories switched up to fit, the ancient Greeks. And this is something that's real easy when you get deep into it and study the two. You can see it clear as day, as I said. But we know from Egyptian mythology, we have the primordial, 8. We have the ancient Egyptian creation story. And everybody's got this creation story. There's a lot in common with all of them. We got the ancient Egyptian creation story. We know about the Adod, the primordial 8, or the primordial egg. We know about Ptah, the waters of Noon, the dark abyss, or what have you. All that talking about the ancient Egyptian creation story with Atum and how everything came into existence. And it's basically giving you a parable about the powers that's basically, first, which is going to initiate the existence of everything else when you break down the story and understand what it's saying esoterically. We know about that with ancient Kemet. Now, the thing is, you get into Greek mythology and the Greek, creation story and getting into all that information, and it's the same. They're giving you Egyptian mythology, showing you that they basically took the same story. So in Greek mythology, you have the primordial gods. Now it says here, primordial gods, the primordial gods, or protogenoi, which basically means the first beings in existence, the first beings in creation of Greek mythology, were the most basic components of the universe which emerged fully formed at creation. They included earth, air, sea, fresh water, underworld, darkness, night, light, day, procreation, and time. And when you look at these, notice the one down there that is Geb and Nut. That says Uranus. If you understand Greek mythology, we know Uranus being the father of Kronos, and Kronos kills him with that sickle, basically castrates him. Long story. But you see here they have the list of these primordial gods, and Kronos being one.